We have Mathieu from Edgegap now talking about why he trailed in the previous panel when shit hits the fan. It's a good sweary title. I always like that. So I'll let you talk about that.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So, what can go wrong when launching a multiplayer games, or AKA what happened when the shit hits the fan? What you're about to hear was heard before in the meetings, maybe with some of you. Any resemblance is purely coincidental. My name is Mathieu Duperré. I'm the CEO and founder of Edgegap. We're gaming backend providers. We provide services and platforms for one-man army studios up to AAAs and with tens of thousands of employees. I come from the software industry. I've worked in the infrastructure, ops, and telecom for 20 plus years. And I love driving racing cars, as you'll see. So if we look at the journey of game developers or a team of game developers, you initially start with energy at 100. Your team is built of great players who are experienced in all sorts of the game development cycles. Your concept is awesome, right? You're funded by very prestigious publishers, so you have money in the bank. Your prototype is impressing everybody, including players, which are telling you that they want more of your games. You're shooting for the moon, really. So, but what are the challenges that are going to lie ahead? Let's take a look. So, as a racing driver, I like to compare what my fun time is to what a game development is. Let's look at the 4 different turning points where you should be on the lookout for problems. So the first one is around development cycle. So when you're building your game, what are the hiccups that you should look for? The second one will be around before launching your game in the world, just right before. The third one will be when you launch the game. And the fourth one is right after it, what can you do? So as driving a car, every short terms require prep. So we're going to be checking for that. So these are the things that we may or may not have heard during development cycles. So turn 1, we have a nightly build, but the QA team only gets a release every 2 weeks. Or CI/CD pipeline is more like a spaghetti code or a bunch of script that was written by the interns last month. Replacing that third-party tool would take months of development, and now they're trying to ask us for more money. Right? Let's make everything ourselves. So we're going to code our netcode or game engine and the backend. That's going to take a few weeks for Philip to build. Let's save some money on this great open source project. Right? I've heard that many times in the past. Why do I have to wait 5 hours to test this new features that you've implemented, this new bug fixes? Oh, we're not going to look at crossplay at this moment. It's not required. I think we're going to look at that in a few months when the game is launched. So avoiding those crashes. You need to ask yourself if you guys really follow the DevOps methodology properly, right? Are you really following that, or do you stop at releasing a new payload? Or do you really push toward and deploy it in the field, get the QA, get the players to play with the thing and mess around with it? Are you trying to reinvent the wheel? There are many tools out there, many projects, many companies like us. Are you really trying to reinvent the wheel? Could you use automation to make your team and your development cycle more efficient? Are some of the tools that you've written internally job security for people? And I'm talking to some of the tech director in the room, or that I may or may not have met in the past. Have you selected technology agnostic vendors so that you can replace them if needs be, and your team can remain nimble? Is this open source project supported? Is there a company I can pay? Is there a solid community? Will the developer behind it drop the project in 6 months and decide to do something else? And we've seen that a few times in the past. How could we support crossplay right now? That's a good, important one. So these were here before launch date. We picked 3 regions in the public cloud, but we're launching our game worldwide. That's a given for a big crash and latency. We're good with GDPR. It's not important, and I think we're fine. We think we're going to have this amount of CCU. Let's pick this and 10% buffer. We should be good to go. And this happens a lot. I mean, just Google game launch crashes, and that's the most common one. So, hey, Mister, I'm making this deal with this vendor, and to get a good rates and credits, we need to sign this 24 months contract. We have this vendor who will divert the traffic for DDoS, but they're unable to let us know how much it's going to cost. But they're saying it's free at the beginning, so we built our own data center. We don't need anybody else. I've heard that many times from AAAs. Our game can scale. We tested the game with 1,000 players. Sure. We've used spot instances. Well, we're going to save so much money. So let's try to avoid the crashes at turn number 2. So you don't know the location of the players. You don't know where they're going to be coming from. You don't know how many of them there's going to be. So be flexible in how you approached it. I was hearing the lady talking about localization before the panel, and she was right. You don't really know whether your game will be popular in South America, in Asia. Be flexible and be open about that. Have a plan if your game is a success. Seems trivial, seems silly. You're probably wondering, what the heck is he saying that? The thing is, we've seen that in many cases. I mean, how many times have we seen launches where the game got a hit overnight and the day before it crashed? Have a plan for that. You need to be ready in case it happens. You need to be mindful about your budget, right? Pick everything as pay as you go, as much as possible. Long-term contract are a hard sell. And if you're not managing the money in the studio, ask the person who does, because it's the most important one. Your game will hopefully be a success, but it may not, right? And if it happens, what are you going to do about it? Virtual machines auto-scaling is 2010 tech. This is wasted money. Don't waste money on underused servers, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. If you value your players, stay away from spot instances. We've heard our story about studios being forced to kick players off because they had to leave alone the resources. Use the capital wisely. So solutions like ours, we support multi-infrastructure, whether it's on-premise or the cloud or edge computing. Larger studios sometimes have done prior investment on existing other partners, vendors, infrastructures. You can leverage that. So, seen on launch day, I need a coffee, so we've been awake for 36 hours straight. The game is half working, but we need to keep pushing. I've heard that a few times. In fact, we have an employee who left the studio because it was the case in the last launch. Everything is fine, but Twitter and Steam says differently. I have streamers on Twitch complaining about my game. But yeah, no, I don't think we'll have any problem. Queuing time is in the hours, so I think this one I guess is debatable because Riot and Blizzard seems to be thinking this one is fine. We're getting DDoSed. Yeah, it's gonna happen. We don't have any visibility on what the players' experience is. We know what they're doing in the game, but we think it's working well for them from an experience perspective. So we're going to need 100 servers, but we've reserved 1,000. I have the CFO on line number 2. Oh, we needed 1,000 servers, but we've only reserved 100. I have the tech director on line number 3. So let's try to avoid those crashes. You need to get real-time visibility tools. Get as many logs as possible, not just from your game itself, but from the flows. What are the ins and outs of your games? What are those flows? And besides knowing that something is either working or not working, do you understand what's working? Is it working well, and how well is it working? Don't assume that your cloud provider has unlimited scalability. It's not real, it's not true. They have a limited amount of servers. We've seen cases where a whole DC in Sweden, for example, went down. And resiliency is also another very hot topic, because I'm sure that you've heard about AWS outages in the last few months, right? Have a 24/7 support plan for your game. I come from the telecom space. Up until 5 years ago, I was purely working in the telecom industry. And I'm used to what we call the 5-9 availability. I don't know if you remember when was the last time your wireless phone stopped working. You probably don't. And that's because those wireless carriers are bound to giving you the service, their emergency service. What if you were treating that live game that you want to make as a service? What if you were planning to support it 24/7? We've seen a lot of cases where developers told themselves that, oh, if my game goes down at 2 a.m. in the morning, I'll just fix it up when I wake up. We've seen that many times. I've seen a game down for more than a day because the guy was out on PTO. He didn't give a shit about. The rest of the team was, oh, it's John's job. Poor experience. The amount of churn that they had that day was probably really, really high. Matchmaking needs to be flexible. You need to be able to implement different modes in your game very quickly, and not just one, because you don't know what's going to work. Pick a DDoS mitigation solutions which will work, but also will be fairly cheap in price, because they can get pretty expensive. So no range of IP, different vendors. Pick a low server density, so you don't want to have 50,000 players stuck in 2 physical servers. It's a recipe for a big mess. Use an orchestrator. You want to make sure your game will scale if it becomes successful, or when it becomes successful, and it's going to be invisible to the players. So some of the problems we've heard after lunch, and that's not me. Why do you need 3 engineers to keep those servers running? And I'm saying 3, but we've seen cases where it was 30. I'm not going to mention the name of the studio. Let's implement this new mod in our game Matchmaker. Everything is going to be fine. It's not going to break. Yeah, we have this bug in production, and fixing it will take 2 minutes, but putting it in production will probably take 2 weeks. Updating our game servers require an hour of maintenance, and during that maintenance, the game is not going to work. I've stopped playing PUBG because of that, not the mobile version, the PC version. So if anybody from Tencent is here, your game is fine. So let's avoid the crashes at turn number 4. You need to choose a backend that supports multi-versioning. A/B testing, I've seen it a few times this morning. Rolling updates. We're on 2022. If you don't support rolling updates, please come and see me. There's no reason you don't support rolling updates. Your game should support having multiple versions running at the same time. And you should be able to upgrade a certain area, a country, do A/B testing in production, automate the whole pipeline, and that's including the deployment. You want to put your game in the player's hands as quickly as possible. That's going to help you down the road. I know it's a pain in the butt. Sometimes it's quicker to just do it manually, but automate the whole thing. Pick up a platform and a vendors which won't require you to hire tens of DevOps engineers and a few PhD to understand. Try to avoid underused server instances. Your CFO will thank you for that. They're a pure waste of money. So we've seen cases where, actually, I'll mention it a bit later. Oh, see, I don't think that the Mac likes my PowerPoint here. Can you help? How can we help you? So who are we? We're a fully managed and automated platform. We provide hosting and control for game servers and relays. It's an all-inclusive pay-as-you-go pricing model. It's very easy to budget. We support every game genres and studio sizes. We have MMOs, we have fighting, sports, FPS, MOBA, And we have one-man army, actually a few one of those launched their games this week. And we have AAA customers. It's a 100% turnkey solution, no complex, no learning curve. So it's one-stop shop for gaming backend services. We work with an ecosystem of partners, and we can provide everything from A to Z. This whole platform is supported 24/7, so you will be able to sleep. You can spend your time and effort on making the games and rely on us to make sure that the game is available for the players. We are integrated with every existing engines out there and other backend services. We provide free engineering for a special project. We have a few studios who reached out and they wanted to do different design in their games, which called for a different kind of management in the backend, and we work on that. We provide that for free in some cases, and we do have a free tier and credits for trial and development. These are some of the studios we work with. I mainly want to mention the partners. We work with NetTension, a Perils branch, who provides netcode, and BrainCloud, who provides player services like leaderboards and inventories and what's not. If we compare ourselves to the public cloud, we're container-based, for those of you who know about containers. We can deploy any applications in 1.7 seconds compared to what the cloud will typically gives you, which is 45 seconds to 2 minutes. We support 250 regions. This allows us to reduce latency by half. That's why most of the AAA studios work with us. By being so spread around the world, we're able to lower latency by getting closer to your players, which is not what the public clouds will typically do. They support 20-25 regions, very centralized. We have unlimited scalability. If a region is filled, if a provider goes down, like it happened a few times in the last few months with Azure and AWS, it's still going to be fine. Your game will keep up and running. So it's kind of an insurance for your game to be available. There's no idle scaling. So we deploy an instance of your game server and your relays only when you have players. If there's no player, we don't deploy anything. So you don't need to have this overflow buffer of unused capacity like a service like GameLift will give you, will require actually. They need to preemptively start servers so that they can be allocated by a matchmaker. And there's no engineers required. The whole system is fully managed, whereas with a cloud, you typically need 2 or 3 developers, engineers at minimum. So in a few closing notes, so we provide the lowest latency on the market for multiplayer games. Our platform will scale instantly worldwide. We help you to reach all part of the world, so you never really know where your game will be popular. We protect against outages. We're going to help you tap different markets and increase revenues. Our technology is already integrated with most engine today. If you go in their asset stores or marketplace, you will have plugins for Edgegap. That's going to allow you to focus on your game, make sure it's working, make sure you know when the players will spend money on the their hard-earned money on your games. We manage the whole infrastructure, and we support custom features for larger and smaller studios, really. So it's just a matter of reaching out. I think I have a minute or two to answer a few questions, but we also have a booth here, and we're going to host an happy hours where I will give you a few free drinks.
Thank you very much. Free drinks. The booth, that's 5 o'clock today, I think?
It's at 6, I believe.
Is it 5? Okay. Well, okay, maybe it's 6. I thought it was 5. Fair enough. Well, it's on the it's on your planner. So has anybody got a question? Anybody got a question? There's a lot of things thrown out there. Sorry, I can't really see. Couldn't see here. I'll come in. You've got quite a lot of different sort of services there. You seem to be doing everything, and you've highlighted quite a lot of problems. You know, in terms of your target partners, is there a limit of scale before they can come and work with you, or is it from everybody in the industry?
It's for everybody in the industry. We're providing a human touch to integrating with studios, right? Whereas with the larger providers, it's very hard to get someone on the phone. We use Discord, Slack, and we have one-man army. We obviously prioritized, I'm going to say, full-time developers.
Yeah.
Those weekend warriors, we help them when we can, but we mainly work with established studios. Even if you're a single employee, we're going to
Okay,
work.
so for even in indie dev studios, it's still something to talk to. Okay.
Yep, but we also have a dedicated team for AAAs because we do work with largers and they have a different expectations, I'm going to say.
Yeah, of course. Fantastic. Okay, well, thank you very much for your presentation, and we'll come for join you for beers later on. Awesome. Thank you very much.